both sides are digging in, there are no signs of a compromise, and the clock is ticking toward a possible government default. House Speaker John Boehner said today all the president has to do is pick up the phone and start negotiating. When asked how the current standoff might end, the speaker said, "If I knew, I'd tell you." He blames Mr. Obama for the current impasse, claiming the president refuses to negotiate.
My goal here is to have a serious conversation about those things that are driving the deficit and driving the debt up. And the president's refusal to sit down and have a conversation about this is putting our nation
So are you saying
at risk
that
of
if he
default.
continues to refuse to negotiate, the country is going to default?
It's the path we're on.
Speaker Boehner said today there aren't enough votes in the House to pass a clean spending bill, but Democrats say there are. The president and his allies say Republicans are making unreasonable demands regarding health care and spending cuts, and they say the president's perfectly willing to negotiate, but not until the government shutdown is ended.
I don't think it's fair to say that there's no reasonableness on the Democratic side. What we've seen is demands, unless I get my way, that will bring these terrible consequences of shutdown or default. Those kinds of threats have to stop.
Meantime, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has ordered hundreds of thousands of Defense Department employees back to work tomorrow, while a majority of the federal workforce is still off the job. In Washington, Steve Santani, Fox News.
Well, meanwhile, Wisconsin lawmakers are weighing in on the government shutdown, but they're not commenting from Capitol Hill. They actually came back home.
Yeah, our Jenna Sachs spoke with two of them today. She's live in New Berlin right now. Jenna, either side willing to budge?
It doesn't sound like it. One of the lawmakers I spoke with today described the atmosphere in Washington right now as poisonous, with Democrats demanding a final vote and Republicans demanding concessions.
The debt is hanging over this country like the Black Plague.
As government functions grind to a halt, Jim Sensenbrenner returns to Wisconsin for a 40-hour visit, which includes a town hall meeting with constituents.
It seems like that's not a good way to run the country.
Most here appear to be supporters of the Republican congressman, but there are some critical of Republican efforts to derail the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare.
I have a neighbor who desperately needs Obamacare.
Republican leadership has said there's no end to the shutdown in sight unless Democrats make concessions.
Unfortunately, the president and the Democrats in the Senate have refused to negotiate.
As this drags on, the impact of this will hurt more and more Americans.
Also back in Wisconsin for 40 hours is Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Moore says Democrats have already made concessions on the budget.
$70 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars below what even the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee says is sustainable.
Moore says the health care reforms will help families avoid bankruptcy.
It limits for a family only $6,000 some dollars out of pocket that any family will ever have to spend because they've had an illness.
Obamacare is not ready for prime time, and the administration has had 3.5 years.
Sensenbrenner says at the least he wants to see Obamacare delayed by 1 year.
Unless we get spending under control, we're not going to have a healthy economy.
Congresswoman Moore says they were able to return this weekend because no votes were scheduled. Both she and Sensenbrenner arrived last night, and they'll leave tomorrow morning. This town hall meeting was actually scheduled before the shutdown. Sensenbrenner told the crowd here tonight it will likely be his last visit back for some time. Reporting live in New Berlin, Jenna Sachs, Fox 6 News.
All right, well, we'll see what this week brings, see if it brings any change. Thank you, Jenna.
Back to the negotiating table, members of a